themselves. Instead, they will live for Christ, who died and was raised for them. The second question I want to ask you tonight, as we are wrapping up this series, be sincere to yourself. Who are you living for? Brother, who are you living for? Who are you living for? Who is gaining the profit from your daily existence? Who are you living for? When you receive his new life, let me put it to you in plain English. Once you receive the new life of Christ, you have become a debtor to him. He has given you credit. That credit is called life. You owe him everything, including your life. You owe him. Unbelievers who refuse to recognize that this credit and debt column in the matters of life and destiny exist, they will find out at the day of their death or at the end of the age that the life that they had was not their own. And the one who owns it has total authority to have demanded for it. That you refuse to give it does not change the fact that he owns it. You that is now born again, you are a debtor. You live for him with your body. You live for him with your money. You live for him with your time. Marriage is not just for sexual pleasure. When you are getting married, two of you are in agreement. We live for Jesus, we die for him. We raise our children to live for Jesus. Which day I was just meditating and I just made up my mind that I want to begin to teach my son and my daughter, the older ones. Once my son comes from boarding house and is fully home now, I'm going to be teaching them. And I'm preparing them for tough days so that my children too can die for Jesus. I want to teach them. You owe him. He said, you are not permitted to live for yourself any longer. You lived for yourself before now. But the minute you understand his sacrifice, you are obligated by that love that controls you to begin to live for Christ. If we measure your life since January, maybe you are 22 years old now. Maybe you even got born again when you were 8. For the last 14 years, who have you been living for? I'm just showing you the example of Jesus. Go to Hebrews chapter 10. Let's go to verse 5. We'll read from 5 to verse 7 or 8. That is why when Christ came into the world, he said to God, you did not want animal sacrifices or sin offerings, but you have what? Given me a body to what? Offer. Next verse. You were not pleased with burnt offerings or other offerings for sin. Verse 7. Verse 7. Then I said, look, I have come to do what? Your will. Oh God, as it is written about me, where? Scriptures. So Jesus was basically saying, the reason you gave me a body is to do what? Your will. So dear brothers and sisters, you need to settle it in your heart that the reason you have a body is to do the will of God. If you are living on a daily basis and the account of the kingdom is not being credited per second, per minute with your obedience to the will of God, your body is wasting space. Because the realm of the spirit does not condone neutrality. If the kingdom is not being credited with your obedience, somebody else is getting it. Something else is getting it. Heaven is supposed to be receiving credit alerts per second basis. Credit alerts. And what are these credit alerts? If you love me, keep my commandments. Surrender to the dictates of my will. This is how Jesus lived. Many are born again, but they still want to live like Adam in rebellion and disobedience. Meanwhile, Jesus has already set a new pattern. The pattern is a pattern of surrender